Incredible revelation. How a hidden bond with humans changed this wolf's life forever. Jake stepped out of his old pickup truck, the familiar dust swirling around him like ghosts from the past. The townsfolk had hardly changed, but he felt like a stranger in his own life. The war had left deep scars on his soul, wounds hidden beneath the surface. As he trudged toward his childhood home, hope seemed as distant as the stars he once fought for. The farm stretched out like a patchwork quilt, beneath a sky that threatened rain. Neighborhood potlucks had become gatherings of nostalgia, buzzing with laughter that felt distant to him now. A once warm blanket turned cold. Jake sought solace in the simplicity of home, yet every step carried the weight of economic hardship and a fading family legacy that could almost be touched. As he wandered through the sweeping woods surrounding the town, he stumbled upon an injured wolf pup. Her fragile whimper echoed his isolation. Dark fur mottled with dirt, her eyes were pools of sorrow. Jake felt a flicker of recognition. She too had faced suffering. He named her Luna. Tender moments became their daily rhythm. Caring for Luna, feeding her bits of chicken, coaxing her to stand on shaky legs, sparked a warmth within him. Each day as her strength returned, he felt a deep connection unfurl. They sat together beneath the trees, sharing a silence that spoke volumes. What had felt lost began to bloom again. Hope flickered like a candle in the dark. Yet, the budding bond between man and beast faced harsh scrutiny. The community was steeped in fear, whispering about the dangers of wolves. "They'll turn on you," Jake's own family warned, eyes narrowed in judgment. Each potluck grew quieter when he entered, sidelong glances filled with doubt, affection twisted into concern. The weight of their tradition pressed down heavy, and he battled between the fear of losing Luna and the desire to show his neighbors the light he saw in her gentle eyes. With the county fair approaching, excitement filled the air. It was a time for competition and camaraderie, but for Jake the pressure mounted. What if Luna showed up? His heart raced at the thought of presenting her, the dog who had healed him, to the very people who saw her as a threat. Just the night before, as thunder rumbled overhead, Jake felt a swell of courage. He loosened his grip and made a promise to Luna. "If we fight together we can change their minds," he whispered, feeling her breath warm against his skin. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When Luna unexpectedly showed up at the fair, gasps echoed like echoes of the past. He took center stage, heart pounding as the angry crowd turned to voice their discontent. This was his moment. Jake swallowed hard, emotions curling in his throat. "Please listen," he shouted, voice strong yet quaking. "She's not a danger. She's a survivor just like me." But then a familiar figure stepped from the shadows, a remnant of his military past. The air thickened, breaths caught in collective disbelief. He faced a battle against the shadows of previous judgments, confronting the ghosts of tradition. Could he convince them to open their hearts, not only to Luna but to the beautiful possibility of acceptance? Jake's heart raced as he caught sight of the figure emerging from the crowd. It was Sergeant Donovan, an old friend turned adversary, now a symbol of everything he once fought against. The man had always been a voice of reason, but that reason stood rigid now, hardened by the suspicion that accompanied small-town life. "Jake," Donovan boomed, cutting through the murmurs. His voice held authority, a seasoned soldier's command. "You shouldn't have brought that wild beast here. You're putting everyone at risk." Each word struck like a blow. The crowd shifted, uncertainty mingling with fear. Jake felt Luna lean against his leg, her warm body steadying him. He had believed in her, their connection, the healing she had given him. "She just needs a chance," he yelled back, pleading with the crowd's eyes, flicking to Luna's soulful gaze. "I've seen what love can do. If we shut her out, we're not protecting ourselves. We're losing a part of what we could become." A woman in the crowd stepped forward, her face softening under his gaze. "But wolves are unpredictable, Jake. They can be dangerous. What if she attacks?" Jake sensed the fear clinging to her words, shadows of generations weaving into the fabric of her thoughts. "I've fought the things you can't see, the demons that haunt me," he replied, his voice quieter now, weighted with honesty. "That kind of danger doesn't wear fur and claws." For a moment all eyes were on both men. A silent battle of wills unfolding. He could see Donovan wrestling with his instincts, the military man in him trying to rationalize. But Jake felt the urge to chase deeper truths. What if she's not the enemy? What if she's here to heal? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Whispers exchanged like currency. Did he really mean that? Was it possible? Donovan stepped closer, the tension palpable. "What it's really about is trust, Jake. Can you even trust her? You've been through a lot. Maybe your judgment is clouded." In that moment, Jake recognized a kindred spirit, a man who had fought battles of his own. There was a vulnerability beneath Donovan's tough exterior, a desire for protection, a longing to shield those he cared about. Jake searched his heart, willing to bridge that gap. "You know, trust is a two-way street. I've seen the light in her. That means something." Then, with a breath that felt like a wild leap, Jake knelt beside Luna. He faced Donovan, exposing his own scars. "Trust is hard. I get it. But look at her. Look how she loves. We all need that. If we can open our hearts just a little." The crowd took a collective breath, leaning forward as if drawn to the sincerity that filled the air. Jake felt a warmth flutter beneath his skin, a thread weaving through the uncertainty. Just then Luna shifted, nudging Jake's hand with her nose as if to say, "I'm here." The wolf pup, now unsteady, gave a soft whimper and met Donovan's gaze. Her innocence seemed to pierce through the hardened barriers. Tears threatened to fill Jake's eyes as he watched the transformation before him. "This is our chance," he said, voice thick, "to acknowledge each other's pain and come together." But then a howl echoed in the distance, the raw note of a wolf carrying on the wind, a reminder of nature's power, and a dark reality they couldn't ignore. Fear surged anew through the crowd, shaking Jake's moment of hope. "Will you believe in her?" he shouted into the rising tension, the future hanging in the balance, unsure and trembling. Would his town let go of their fears and trust in something greater than judgment? As they waited, hearts in their throats, he felt the weight of the world resting on the bond he had formed with a creature that had brought him back from the edge. Would he finally find acceptance for Luna, or was this another battle lost? And as the howl faded into the dusk, the crowd remained silent, choices hanging like stars above them, waiting to see if they could embrace the unknown. Donovan's face was a mixture of disbelief and conflict. Jake watched as the man's brow furrowed. That inner battle was palpable. In his chest, Jake could feel his own heart drumming louder, the weight of every past feeling pressed against his ribs. "Jake," Donovan finally said, voice lower but still firm, "this isn't just about trust. You think that by introducing her to us you can change our minds? This community. We've all got scars to protect too." The murmurs around them heightened. Jake could sense the tension thickening the air, like a storm gathering, ready to unleash its chaos at any moment. But he wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. Clenching his fists, he stepped closer, braving the line he had crossed. "Damn it, Donovan. These aren't just scars, they're chains," Jake shouted, passion sparking with every word. "We're letting fear dictate our actions. Look at her. She's not just some wild beast. She's more like us than you can imagine." Luna shifted next to him, as if sensing the rising stakes. Gazing at Donovan, Jake could see the flicker of memories, old fights, long conversations over beer, and bonding that once bridged the gap between them. "We've both lost a lot, but running from it won't bring those we've lost back. We need to stop this cycle." Donovan hesitated, uncertainty edging into his stance. And Jake saw it, the shift. For the first time, his old friend was questioning everything. The crowd caught the shift like wildfire, loose threads of doubt weaving together in a tapestry of new understanding. I do see something in her," Donovan admitted slowly, his voice almost breaking. "She's not just a wolf to you, is she? She's your anchor." But for the rest of us, he trailed off, glancing around as if hoping to gauge the mood of the townsfolk. Jake took that sliver of hope and ran with it. "Exactly. She's my anchor, and she could be all of ours if we let her. Luna is here to heal, not to harm." Another howl rang through the night, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just an echo in the distance. It was a call to arms, a reminder that they were not alone. Jake felt it deep within, an awakening, something bigger than fear or judgment. Around him he noticed the crowd shift. Some parents drew their children closer. Others exchanged glances, weighing their fears against the possibility of acceptance. "What if we stand together?" Jake urged. "What if we face our demons side by side?" But in that moment of fragile hope, another figure emerged from the shadows, a dark silhouette against the moonlight, streaked with menace. Jake's heart sank. It was a grown wolf, large and confident, muscles rippling under thick fur. Instantly gasps filled the air. Fear rippled through the crowd like a shockwave, and he could feel their anxiety wash over him. This was not what he wanted. This was the exact challenge he feared would shatter everything he had fought for. "Stay back," Donovan yelled, stepping in front of the crowd, protective instincts kicking in. Jake's breath hitched. "No, wait." He rushed forward instinctively. "It's not what you think." In that second he caught a glimpse of Luna, body tense, caught between instinct and loyalty. The balance hung in the air, frail and shattering. Would this wolf bring them hope or destroy all his efforts? And as he stepped toward the unknown danger, Jake realized he was about to face not only the wolves but the truth of his own beliefs. The night felt alive, crackling with energy, as the line between fear and trust trembled dangerously. What would become of this moment of decision? And were they truly ready to embrace the unknown? Jake's heart raced as he moved ahead, each step echoing in his ears like a drumroll of fate. The looming figure of the wolf spread its powerful stance, its dark eyes glinting under the moonlight, and the crowd held its breath, frozen in uncertainty. "Stay back, Jake," Donovan shouted, panic rising in his voice. But Jake's conviction pulsed stronger than the fear clawing at him. He could feel Luna shifting beside him, her energy buzzing like electricity, ready to respond. "Donovan, it isn't a threat," Jake called out, desperation lacing his words. The community's gaze was fixed on him, waiting for a sign. "Luna knows her kind. She'll keep us safe." He turned to the wolf, holding its intense gaze, searching for something, anything that could bridge their worlds. The wolf's breath came heavy, clouding the cold air. With every beat of Jake's heart, tension grew, binding the crowd as they leaned in, clinging to the hope of salvation. The distance closed between them, and instinct kicked in alongside reason. "Please," he whispered, "show them you're here for the same reason Luna is. To heal." The wolf's ears pricked, and for a fraction of a second, the chaos around them dulled, like a moment suspended in time. Then with a slow, calculated motion, the wolf lowered its head. A grunt escaped its throat, a challenge rooted not in aggression but in weary understanding. Jake dared to move closer. "See," he implored his friends, eyes darting between Donovan and the gathering crowd, searching for anyone willing to see what he saw. But the silence shattered as another howl split the air, loud and penetrating. This one didn't carry the weight of danger. It held sorrow, echoing through the trees like a wail from the past. The wolf turned its gaze to the direction of the sound, muscles tense as if anticipating the arrival of a storm. "What is happening?" one parent gasped, clutching a small child, fingers digging into fabric. The gathered community stirred, whispers of fear crackling under the surface. "Luna," Jake said, steadying himself. "You have to show them who you are." He glanced down, and he could see her reaction, eyes widening, tail held low, caught between her loyalty to him and the instincts of her heritage. "Trust me," he urged softly, drawing a deep breath to steady himself. He stepped back to give her space, presence impartial. In that heartbeat, with the night draped around them in shadows and whispers, Luna let out a low melodic whine, one that spoke of pain, longing, and ached for connection. For the first time, the crowd felt the flicker of recognition shine through their fear. Suddenly the wolf shifted, eyes not on Luna or Jake but on the crowd, a moment where it seemed to weigh each soul before it. Jake held his breath. He knew this was the moment. Would the community see the truth? Or would they retreat into their fear once more? Then, like water breaking from a dam, the steady pulse of hope flowed through the crowd. Some stepped forward, drawn by the song of acceptance. Others still hesitated, caught in their fears. "Do you see it now?" Jake called out, voice firm with belief. "We're all connected. She's one of us." But as he spoke, more howls erupted from the hills, fierce and wild, and a chilling realization settled in. This wasn't his solitary wolf. It was a pack, one that had returned, perhaps to reclaim what had been lost. "Jake!" Donovan shouted, alarm flashing in his eyes. "We need to get out of here." Fear surged anew, threatening to undo everything Jake had worked for. The gravity of the moment hit him hard. Does the pack pose a threat? Or will they unite? As the sounds of the wild grew closer, Jake felt the stakes rise, furious and fierce. Could they defend their newfound trust against the shadows that sought to tear them apart? With the air thick with tension, Jake took a deep breath, steeled himself, and realized they could not run anymore. They had to stand and fight for their fragile connection. Would this be the moment they came together against a common threat? Or was it already too late? The sound of howls grew closer, swirling in a haunting melody that pressed down on Jake's heart. The pack was coming, and he could feel that everyone around him was teetering on the edge of panic. They could either rally together or scatter like leaves in the wind. "Back away slowly," Donovan shouted, inching backward, his eyes darting around as if looking for an escape. Jake grit his teeth, the instinct to protect threatening to consume him. Wasn't this what they had worked for? Didn't their connection mean something? "Wait!" Jake called out, voice sharp and clear as he stepped forward, hands held palms out. It was an act of peace, hope fueled by desperation. "Please. I know what you hear, but you have to trust me. They're not here to harm us." In his peripheral vision, he noticed some faces softening, while others tightened into grimaces. The wolf, too, seemed to sense the swirling emotions of the crowd, muscles tensed, ready yet uncertain. The howls echoed again, a signature of the pack arriving. "Jake, what if it gets aggressive?" Donovan was quivering now, unable to mask his fear even as he saw a flicker of trust begin to form in the eyes of others. "I won't let that happen," Jake replied, confidence flickering beneath his uncertainty. Luna pressed closer against his leg, drawing strength from his resolve. In that moment, he remembered a lesson from when he and his father would watch the wild on their camping trips. Animals could sense fear. If he showed courage, perhaps they could sway the flow of destiny. Tentative steps came from the edge of the crowd. A woman moved forward, her brows furrowed with cautious hope. "You really believe they mean us no harm?" "Yes," Jake said, his voice rising above the tension. "Look at Luna. She's not afraid. That means something." Taking a chance, Jake knelt, barely inches above the ground, arms open in a gesture of openness. With the moon's light casting silver beams around him, he sensed his heart thudding with the pulse of possibility. The wolf's ears perked up, and with a fluid motion it took a step closer, but not toward Luna. It was toward Jake. At that very moment, the night fractured with the sound of footsteps, branch snaps, and whispers. The pack emerged. Dark figures padded out from the trees, a mix of fur and shadow, each unique yet united by a single purpose. Within their darkened forms, Jake could see glimmers of empathy in their eyes, a spark that resonated with his own. "Stand together," he shouted, hoping to inspire unity. The realization that they weren't just facing wolves, but a family crying for connection, shifted the atmosphere. The howling softened into a low rumble, blending seamlessly with the pulse of Jake's heart. It was a territory they were all familiar with, fear, but now laced with an undercurrent of something far deeper, longing. One by one, the gathered community stepped forward, the boundaries between them and the wolves beginning to fade. A heartbeat of silence stretched, and in that flicker, Jake saw recognition bloom within the crowd. Then suddenly a child broke through the adult's grasp. The small boy reached out, a hand trembling but an expression shining bright with innocence and pure curiosity. "Are they friendly?" Jake met the child's wide eyes and his heart warmed. "They could be, if we let them." As the wolves slowed, the tallest one, a magnificent creature with a thick coat of silver gray, stepped closer. Its gaze locked onto the boy, and Jake grasped the significance of this moment. Here lay the chance for healing, a bridge between worlds that had for too long been separated. But just as hope ignited, the wind shifted, carrying a chilling scent that made every wolf's expression tighten. Something was changing, a harsh shift in the acceptance they had dared to build. "Jake!" Donovan yelled, eyes wide with dread. The others turned as a dark shadow loomed in the trees behind the pack. What was coming? The moment of truth was upon them. Was it a new threat or a call to arms? Jake's breath quickened. They weren't just fighting for acceptance. They were now fighting for survival. The shadow stepped forward, breaking through the trees with ominous intent. The once serene night transformed, infused with tension as every heart in the crowd skipped a beat. Jake's eyes darted to Donovan, who was frozen with dread. Around them whispers turned to gasps, fear gripping everyone like a vice. The wolf by Jake's side growled softly, a rumble that vibrated through the air, thick with apprehension. Jake felt that growl resonate within him, a protective pulse urging him to act. But what could he do? The weight of the moment pressed against his chest, making it hard to breathe. Emerging from the darkness was a creature unlike any Jake had ever seen. Larger than the others, its coat was stark black, a striking contrast against the silver gray of the pack. The creature carried an aura of authority, its yellow eyes gleaming like fiery lanterns in the shadows. The crowd instinctively stepped back, fear radiating from them. "Stay strong," Jake shouted, though his own voice wavered. He could feel Luna flinch as the new wolf advanced, yet he remained rooted. This was his moment to hold the line. "Jake, this one's dangerous," Donovan shouted. Fear laced his words, the panic uncontained. But Jake knew that they couldn't turn on each other now. They had to trust the connection they had begun to forge. The two packs, humans and wolves, stood in a fragile balance. Jake slowly stepped forward, breaking the barrier between them, hands still wide open in a welcoming gesture. The air thickened with uncertainty as the black wolf's gaze bore down on him. "Please," he whispered, his heart racing. "We mean no harm. We seek understanding, not conflict." To his surprise, the noise of the crowd began to dwindle, breaths quieting as curiosity sparked. Perhaps they could sense his resolve, the vulnerability beneath the fear. The black wolf paused, tilting its head slightly as if weighing Jake's sincerity. The air crackled with intensity as if the earth itself held its breath. Then the wolf released a low rumble, one that echoed in the chests of the other pack members. It wasn't a growl but rather a call, a warning to stay back, but also an invitation. Heart in his throat, Jake took another cautious step forward, pushing through the collective fear. "If we stand apart, we can only create more divide. Let us be brave together." Just then a sudden familiar breeze swept through the clearing, brushing against Jake's skin. It carried the sense of home, safety, and connection. Confidence surged within him as an unexpected bond wrapped around his thoughts. The black wolf took a cautious step closer, and with every inch it moved, Jake felt the hope expanding within the gathered crowd. They locked eyes, and Jake sensed something profound in that moment, something that whispered of forgotten ties and ancient understanding. But just as the tension began to ease, a roar erupted from the shadows. More than just a sound, it felt like an earthquake trembling through the ground. The alpha of the black wolf pack revealed itself, leaping into view, a hulking mass whose eyes glinted with fury. "Step back," the alpha barked, its voice rolling like thunder across the quiet landscape. The wolves tensed, the new formation shifting dramatically, and fear regained its grip on the humans around Jake. "Don't," Jake called out desperately, realizing that the balance he fought to build was now crumbling. How could they stand together against internal threats, if their own kind was turning against them? The air thick with impending confrontation, he faced the dark wolf with determination. The moment of truth loomed closer, and Jake had only one chance to prove that unity could eclipse even the fiercest instability. "Is there a way for peace?" he asked, voice steady. "Or is it too late for all of us?" The answer hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. What came next could either tear them apart or forge a new bond in the face of adversity. With the roar still echoing, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and Jake could only hope for a miracle. The tension was taut, nothing but a fragile thread holding the two worlds apart. Jake's heart raced, adrenaline pulsing in his veins as he faced the massive alpha, its fury radiating through the clearing. The roiling energy felt like a storm ready to break, and he took a deep breath, grounding himself against the growing dread of conflict. "Please," he urged again, feeling the wolf beside him shift closer, its warm presence a beacon of support. "We can find a way forward. Together." The alpha's eyes narrowed, and it let out another thunderous snarl, its body tense and ready to spring. "You dare challenge my pack?" The words thundered in Jake's ears, and he could see the wolves shift uncomfortably, caught between their instinct to protect and the curious pull of Jake's words. "I'm not challenging anyone," Jake called out, his own voice echoing through the stillness. I'm offering a chance. We've each faced struggles, losses. Perhaps we've both been taught to fight when we should listen. There was a flicker of uncertainty in the alpha's gaze. An imperceptible pause that sent a ripple of hope through the crowd. For a heartbeat, Jake dared to believe. Then the alpha lunged forward, powerful and quick. Jake flinched instinctively. But that moment was interrupted by a piercing howl that sliced through the air. It was the black wolf, the one Jake had initially approached with care. Its voice rang out, a call so rich with emotion it shook the very ground beneath them. Wait! It stepped between Jake and the threatening alpha, its own body bristling with a tension that mirrored the crowd's. I sensed something in him, a bond that we have lost. He speaks the truth. Shock rippled through the gathering. The black wolf's words hung in the air like magic. The alpha hesitated, its fury faltering as it stared into the eyes of its pack mate, a flicker of doubt crossing its fierce gaze. What do you know of bonds? The alpha snapped, but this time there was less conviction, as if it were trying to hold on to anger that didn't fit the moment. I know we are all more alike than we realize, the black wolf replied, pacing forward to stand firmly beside Jake. I know the pain of division, and the cost of misunderstanding. We share the same sky, the same world. You cannot fight a storm alone without losing everything. Jake felt a swell of pride for the black wolf. This moment of bravery tethering him to hope. The murmurs from the humans began anew, tentative but growing. They sensed a shift, a possibility emerging from the storm clouds of aggression. You would trust him? The alpha growled, and Jake could sense the struggle within it. A leadership torn between duty and the allure of unity. I would, the black wolf replied firmly. He reached out when we all would have turned away. We owe it to ourselves and to the scars of our past to explore this path. The air hung heavy, a blend of hope and fear. The crowd teetering as they waited for the alpha's verdict. Finally, the alpha took a step back, its stance relaxing slightly. If peace is what you truly seek, then it begins with trust. But trust is earned, not given. Jake nodded, ready to embrace whatever trials lay ahead. Then let us earn it together. He could feel the weight of the moment shift. Could this be the first step toward healing? Or was it merely another illusion before the darkness returned? As silence fell over the gathering, something deep within him stirred, an ember of hope illuminated by the shared understanding in the air. But just then, from the edge of the clearing, a shadow flitted beyond the tree, leaned dark and menacing. A cold breeze swept through, stirring uncertainty and fears long buried. Who goes there? The alpha barked, the sense of peace shattered suddenly by a new threat. Jake's heart pounded. Who or what would emerge from the shadows now? His resolve tightened. It was time to confront not just the fears that divided them, but the unseen dangers lurking at the edge of their fragile alliance. The shadow moved like a whisper, darting through the thick underbrush, a sinister presence that cast an immediate chill over the clearing. Jake felt the tension spiral, a tangible force wrapping around them as everyone held their breath. The alpha lowered its head, eyes narrowed, scanning for any sign of threat. Jake's heart raced, uncertainty gnawing at him. It was as if the night demanded sacrifice, a test to prove the newly formed bond between them. The black wolf remained resolute beside him, its hackles raised, ready to protect. Show yourself. The alpha barked again, this time with more authority, commanding the darkness to reveal its secrets. The ground trembled beneath the weight of the gathering anticipation. Then, a figure stepped into the light, a young wolf, smaller than the alpha, its fur matted and dirty. It staggered forward, its eyes wide, trembling. Every inch of its frame screamed vulnerability, and Jake felt a surge of heartbreak welling within him. Please, the newcomer whimpered, its voice barely a whisper. I'm alone. I didn't mean to intrude. The alpha seemed to falter, its dominance wavering in the face of this unexpected plea. What do you want here, pup? It growled, but its tone lacked the previous venom. The other wolves shifted, murmurs washing through the crowd as they hastily brushed aside the wounds that had yet to heal. I heard the howl, the young wolf continued, lifting its head to meet the pack's gaze, pleading for understanding. I've been wandering for days. My pack. They're scattered, broken just like yours. Pain flared in Jake's chest at the young wolf's admission. The common thread that wove through their stories tightened in his mind. How many lives had been touched by loss? How many more would suffer in isolation? The black wolf stepped forward, its eyes softening. "We've all faced separation," it said gently, when instinct again urged them to seek safety in numbers. "We're stronger united. You're not alone anymore." With those words, Jake felt the weight of dread lift, if only slightly. Hope crackled like a spark in the air, and he turned to the Alpha, searching its fierce gaze for signs of understanding. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions," he urged. "This is a chance, a moment to redefine ourselves and forge a future where we don't have to fight to survive." The Alpha hesitated, eyes flickering from the newcomer to Jake and back again. The pack stood frozen, anticipation hanging heavy as if the answer could change everything. Finally, the Alpha nodded, though reluctance shadowed the gesture. "If this youngling has endured, then there is truth in unity. But know this, I will protect my family, and any betrayal will be met with consequences." Jake breathed a sigh of relief, however slight. "Then let this be our first step. A new beginning. Together we'll gather the lost, heal the wounds that have divided us." Just then, a rustle erupted from the tree-line. Anxiety flooded the clearing again, and Jake's stomach twisted. Shadows began creeping in, heavier than before, and he could scarcely breathe. "More?" The Alpha's voice was tense as it shifted into a protective stance, ready for conflict. Jake's gut told him it was time to stand firm. No, there's got to be another way. But as dark shapes emerged, the air charged with the energy of impending confrontation, he could only wonder. Would they be ready, not just for the battle ahead, but for the truth that lay within their own hearts? In that moment, the heaviness of the night felt insurmountable, but Jake knew if they were to forge ahead, they would need more than courage. They would need trust. Would trust be found in this shadowy confrontation, or would the past come back to claim them all? The tension was alive, thick like fog wrapping around them. Jake watched as the shadows at the tree-line twisted and flickered, growing closer. Fear gripped him, a vice around his heart. The Alpha, resolute as a mountain, stood protectively beside the small newcomer, who trembled at the edges of the clearing. Yet, as the shapes advanced, he recognized one of them instantly, a familiar silhouette he thought he would never see again. "No way," he breathed, his voice barely audible. Emerging from the darkness was a wolf unlike the rest. Its fur was a mix of grays and browns, a vivid patch of life against the gloom. It was Mina, an old friend from his past life, far back enough to send electric chills coursing through him. She wasn't alone. Other wolves flanked her, their faces worn and weary, but their spirits still flickering like dim candles. He realized these weren't shadows of destruction but lost souls seeking solace. "Mina, is it really you?" Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. Jake's voice pulled her from the shadows. She straightened, meeting his gaze with wide, saucer-like eyes. Recognition dawned, followed by a spark of hope. "Jake, I thought you, all of us thought we'd never see you again. Is this really where you've been?" That was before. Jake felt a rush of emotions washing over him. "But we have the chance to rebuild. To bring our packs together. We can't keep living in the shadows." But the Alpha growled, pacing forward, restless energy thrumming through its powerful frame. "And what of loyalty? What of our past that haunts us?" Mina looked from Jake to the Alpha, her voice steadying. "We've all lost something. The ties that once held us together have frayed. But together we can make new ties, ones built on understanding, on shared scars." The air thickened with hesitation, but Jake felt a warmth coursing through him at her words. The young pup beside him instinctively moved closer to Mina, as if sensing the connection being formed. "We've been living in fear of a fractured world," Jake said, his resolve crystallizing. "If we ever hope to heal, there must be trust in one another." The shadows shifted again, drawing closer, but the bonds forming in the clearing shone like vivid stars against the dark. As new faces emerged from the tree-line, worn yet emboldened, the gathering of wolves began to swell. He could almost hear the hearts of his companions settling, an unspoken agreement echoing around them, but not all were convinced. One of the newer wolves stepped forward, disdain clear in its stance. "And what if this trust becomes betrayal? Can we really afford to risk our lives for some emotional fantasy?" The air crackled with tension again. Jake could feel their skepticism branching out like a thorny vine, threatening to choke the budding alliance. The Alpha turned its fierce gaze on the newcomer, its growl low and unwavering. "We've all battled trust. It's time to either confront our fears or remain lost in the dark. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mixture of fear and longing. Jake took a deep breath, emboldened by the stories of loss shared tonight. Mina, you've always fought for the ones you love. You understand this struggle. Let's show them together we can create something beautiful. We can become family, not out of obligation but out of choice. Just then, a howl echoed from the distance, resonating through the clearing. It was a haunting melody, both inviting and foreboding. Instinct kicked in, and they turned towards the sound, hearts racing. What comes next? Jake mused aloud, knowing in that moment that whatever followed, their journey was just beginning. Would they emerge from the shadows unified? Or would another force tear them apart, testing their fragile bonds? The night felt pregnant with possibility, and Jake knew one thing for certain: this story was far from over. Would they stand together against whatever came next, or would doubt seep back in, pulling them apart once more? The night drew tighter around them, a silent witness to the unfolding saga of redemption and connection. As the howls echoed in crescendo, Jake felt the energy shift, a flicker of determination igniting the hearts of the townsfolk and the gathered wolves alike. Together, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. It was a mantra, a breath against the terror hanging around them like a storm cloud. He glanced at Mina, her eyes shining with the same warmth he remembered from their past, filled with hope and purpose. Around them the pack, both human and wolf, sensed the charged air, the pulse of unspoken understanding stirring deep within their core. Will you stand with me? He called out boldly, locking eyes with Donovan and the other townsfolk. We all face darkness, but if we can find light in each other, the very essence of unity could transform us. This is our chance to rewrite our stories, to emerge stronger. Mina nodded, stepping closer, her voice strong. We can bridge the old wounds and heal together. No one has to remain lost or alone any longer. The alpha wolf turned to face the encroaching shadow, its gaze fierce but now mixed with something softer, as if weighing the power of choice. The very essence of the moment shifted. Jake could feel hope blossoming behind every hesitant heart. Stand with us, not beside us, Mina added, her words igniting a subtle transformation in the crowd. Families stepped firmly forward, parents holding their children, neighbors clasping hands. A single child called out, I want to be brave like you. That small voice pierced the tension, accompanied by lingering excitement. As if in response, the shadows broke apart, revealing silhouettes that shifted but did not charge. The calling howls receded, replaced by the uncertain breaths of the young wolves stepping bravely into the light alongside the wolves of the newer pack. See, Jake urged, excitement brewing within. We're not just a collection of problems. We're a community, ready to create something beautiful. We can protect one another. The tension that had fraught the air began to dissipate, an invisible blanket of understanding enveloping them all. The young wolf, still trembling, instinctively moved further behind Mina, and to Jake's surprise, the alpha took a bold step forward, drawing nearer to their gathering like the lingering promise of dawn. At the heart, we all seek connection, the alpha rumbled, voice rippling through the crowd. But trust is hard-won. The electrifying atmosphere sparked excitement. The crowd stood in anticipation, hearts aligned in newfound purpose. Jake felt that flicker of connection surging through more than just himself, weaving together the lives that had crisscrossed more often than they realized. Then let us begin to build that trust, Jake replied, facing the alpha head-on. We'll show that we can protect each other. And although there will be challenges, we will face them side by side. A glimmer appeared in the alpha's gaze as the shared murmurings echoed within the gathered souls. The pack sensed a shift uncoil, a collective breath harmonizing with anticipation, ready to step into uncharted territory. And that moment, the black wolf moved beside Jake, letting out a soft whimper that danced on the night breeze. We're united in our scars, but let us show them our strength, it said, emboldening everyone. And as they stood together, sheer vulnerability washing over them, trust emerged from the shadows where fear had once reigned. The boundaries of species blurred into a blend of hope, wolf and man, struggling against the single thread that could tear them apart or bind them together. As dawn began to glaze over the horizon, the night began to soften, the first hints of light illuminating the gathering. Let us fight for what really matters, Jake murmured, his eyes glistening with tears of joy. A howl resonated, a blend of many voices joined as one, powerful and defiant against the night. The call for peace transcended the clearing, urging every spirit present to take a leap of faith. The winds changed, the unbroken ground beneath them transformed not just into shared soil but a ground fertile for unity. With a nod, Jake felt the power surge through him. This was not just an ending, but the beginning of a rich tapestry woven with kindness, resilience, and hope. The final howls echoed into the drifting morning, weaving tales of triumph through the air. And hand in paw they stepped into the light, ready to embrace the world, a new kind of family, one forged in acceptance, love, and warmth. This was their moment, a moment to change not just their own lives but the way the world would see them. Would they seize it? Now it's your turn to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire your soul. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people discover this journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of hope and unity. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the word. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through decisive action.